All right, so we're COMP123 and it's week 5, lesson 5, part 2, and we're reviewing the assignment 2 again before we move on to, because by the way, this will help you with your test tomorrow. Okay, so again, it's due Friday at midnight, so you have a little bit of time. I can't review everything with you. I'll try and come around and look and see what you've got today, which is what I want to try and do for this one. The key pieces, if this here looked like your test tomorrow, hint, right? In other words, you'll see the same format. You might see something like this. Here's your class, create it or whatever, and then here's some instructions. What I'm telling you is this. Look at, there's two pieces to this thing. Whenever you see my assignments right now, for now anyway, there's two pieces. One, there's part 1, which is, hey, let's make the class, right? This is this first piece. Right, so describing the class and what it requires, the private methods and properties and so on. I call them properties. Really what they are is they're instance variables or arrays. They're not really properties because we don't have getters and setters, right? But you know what I mean, right? And then there's number 2, second piece, is how to implement your class. So you make your class and then I ask you to do a couple methods. That's what I've been asking, right? That's all it is. So number 1 and number 2 are, number 1, make your class. Number 2, implement it. Okay. Number 3, normally ask for internal documentation, right, for your stuff. If we do a practical example tomorrow, right, I will not ask you for internal documentation. We just don't have time, right? So that piece will not be included. I will also not ask you to share things on GitHub. That won't happen either. So you're not going to be tested on it. I'm not going to say, hey, go up on GitHub and da-da-da-da-da and create this. It's too much work. You only have an hour and a bit, right? We're not talking a lot of time here. So GitHub, these 2 sections here, if we do any kind of practical, number 3 and number 4 will be excluded, right? So which means you're going to zip up and upload this stuff to eCentinel because that's the only way. You'll have a Dropbox. So there'll be 2 piece parts to your test tomorrow. Well, one part will be, if we go this way, and again I'm going to gauge it on what I speak to today, one piece will be the quiz, and the other piece will be the Dropbox that says assignment 1 practical, something like that, okay? Or sorry, it'll be test 1 practical. And I'll instruct you from there. But more or less, everything will be online. So your stuff, your submissions, your results, everything will be online. You'll have one piece of your test automatically marked. So as soon as you're done your test, it'll tell you what your marks are right away, right? So there won't be like, a wait for you to find out how you're doing, right? So it'll give you a little bit of an indicator. The test is worth 10% tomorrow, right? So it's worth both of your assignments put together, right? So 5% for assignment number 1, 5% for assignment number 2, 10% for the test is 20%, right? You'll have by tomorrow. So it's not an exam, but it's not something that's worth 5% either, right? So if you're thinking the test is worth 5% tomorrow, no, it's worth 10. But there's 20 pieces to it. There's little piece parts to it to get your marks, right? So again, people are concerned because, oh my God, there's a lot of stuff I have to study. What it does, tests, what they do is they galvanize you to kind of do your thing, right? Okay, so let's talk about this. Let's talk about this superhero thing that we talked about. So assignment number 1, we made the hero. Assignment number 2, we're going to do the superhero. And obviously the superhero is a derived class or subclass of the hero superclass or base class. We already have the hero class from assignment number 1. That's what I want you to do. So I want you to include the base class from assignment number 1 in assignment number 2. You need to. You can't make a superhero class without having assignment number 1 as the base class, the hero class from assignment number 1. So has everyone done that piece or understand that? If you don't understand that piece, right, that's an issue, right? You have to think about that for yourself. You're making a subclass. This is the way I look at it, right? Here's my class, superhero, and my superclass or base class, in this particular example, is hero. Well, you can't have you need to include the hero class from your assignment number 1. That's number 1. Second part is this string array is a superpowers array. It's just a string array. Now, there's different ways to load this thing up, right? You can declare it. We're going to work on this string array today because I know some of you are having issues, right? What are some ways that you can think of if I was going to pick 3 random powers from a group of 6? What's some methods that I could use to do that? I've heard a couple things like assigning some, once you pick your powers, you assign null, right? Or Smarty says assign null to the other array elements, right? So in other words, you make a random number, right? you choose an index of the array, and if the array index isn't already null, right, like the value of the actual array member, right, you check to see if it's null. If it's not null, then you take it and you use that as power, right? If it is null, right, then you move on and you roll again. All right, that would be the simplest way to do it. Okay, so there's a solution for you for how to do this thing, right? Is it the best solution, right? Most efficient solution? No, because you're rolling again, right? You should only ever need to roll once or 3 times actually. Now to get there, you got to think in terms of how do I, did you guys have string methods, string array methods where you could remove an array element ever? Did you guys ever do any string manipulation or array manipulation? You barely did arrays.
Yeah.
Skipped it.
Well, we know what they are, but
We did 1D and 2D.
Well, it's what this is a 1D array,
But,
right?
no.
Let's talk about it today, all right? Because I want you guys to be successful. I'm not going to ask about this. By the way, this is not including your test tomorrow. You're not going to get an array question on your test, okay? You're going to get, if you get anything on your test tomorrow, you're going to get something like this. Create a class with these members, and make it work with this implementation. That's it, all right? You're not going to get, create a class, and now make a derivative class, right? Make a base, use that as a superclass, and I can't, there's no time, right? Maybe the next test, if you guys get more comfortable, we'll get going. Eventually, you're going to have to be able to do that on the fly. You should be able to create base classes and subclasses within 2 seconds, right? Right now, though, right, I don't think that you're at that level, and I think you just need to do basic things. If you can make a basic class tomorrow, and you understand a little bit about inheritance on the true/false piece of your test, you're good to go. Okay, that's the amount of knowledge I'm looking for. So again, a bit of 8, mostly 9, some of 10, but not all of 10. Okay, things I haven't covered in 10, don't do, because I'm not going to cover them again tomorrow. It doesn't make any sense, right? Okay, so I need to cover this piece. How do I make this? I want to do this generate random powers method with you, right? It's only worth 3 marks, but it's going to drive people crazy, right? They're going to say, I don't know how to do this this random powers thing, right? If worst case scenario, if I was a student and I was looking at my mark structure for this assignment, right? What's a smart thing to do when you're doing my assignments? Come on, I want some feedback here. Smart thing to do. I want to pass with the highest mark I can, but I really can't do a section. What am I going to do? Do all the darn sections I can do, right? Because it tells you how many marks are there, right? And you want to hit the marks, the section with the highest marks. Example would be this. If you don't get this superpowers thing, it's worth 7 marks, right? 7 marks out of 25, right? So it's heavy duty if you don't get this one. I try not to do that too much, but in this particular case, it just makes sense that it would be worth that many, right? Because I'm getting you to create a private method, right, that randomly generates 3 random superpowers. That's 3 marks, right? Think about this, how I would have created it. And I even gave you a hint. Create a loop that picks from the power list 3 times and make sure that the resulting superpowers doesn't contain any duplicate powers. Doesn't contain any duplicate powers? That's probably like 1 or 2 marks right there. That's 5, right? And then here's the list, and just from a complexity perspective, if I was going to rate this question, right, from a 1 to 10, right, it would probably be a 7 in terms of complexity for you guys right now, which means it's higher than average complexity, right? So therefore, I give you extra marks. So instead of 5 marks, it's going to go to 7 marks in terms of doing it, right? If you do part of it right, but not other parts right, then I can give you part marks. And that's why I've arranged the assignments this way. Guys and girls, these questions that I give you here on these practical questions, right, as we move towards the final exam, right, are the same kinds of practical questions you're going to get on your exam. You will have a practical piece to it, right? So that's why I'm training you, so when you do the exam, you know what to do, right? And there's no question. When I ask something, okay, I know what Tom wants. I see this structure before. I've seen this before. I know what he wants here, right? I know that he needs, this is a subclass. I know that, right? Because there's a superclass heading. I know that Tom wants some properties in here, this instant variables here. I know that he wants, a constructor signature that looks like this, right? I know that his methods, he's got a couple methods in here too. This is what my class is going to look like. Because I know that that's what Tom wants, right? So I'm going to start structuring my class this way. I'm going to put the envelope of my class together, right? And I'm going to put some comments in place ahead of time, so that way I can get maximum amount of marks for my assignment. That's the strategy, right? And you try and hit as much of these pieces as possible. So obviously this piece is important, but this piece is also the most difficult. So I probably would start off with the easy pieces. Those are I call them the low-hanging fruit, right? You want to pick those off the tree fast, right? So you're going to create your private properties, 2 marks. You're going to create your constructor method, 3 marks, right? That's 5 right away, right? Then you're going to do some of this other stuff. You're going to say, hey, there's a show powers method. Well, I did that before, right? Kind of with the hero class, right? I'm going to get that. 2 marks for that one, or whatever it is, right? 3 marks. So right there, I've got 3, right? From a strategy perspective, plus another 5, that's 8. I've got 8 marks. Done, right? Those are pieces that are done. Okay, now I got to look at this other piece, this implementation, right? Well, there's 4 marks here, and I'm just asking you to use a couple methods, right? Create the object, and create a couple methods. This is the easy part, right? That's 4 marks, 12 marks, 50%. You're already passed, right? Seriously, right? Hold on a second. Let's go into the internal documentation, right? Do your darn internal documentation. You're going to get 6 marks. That's 18 marks, and you haven't even done the array yet. The array doesn't work, but you've done the framework for it. You've got 18 marks. And you know what? You put it up on GitHub, and you've worked with it a couple times, right? So you get a few commits. That's another 4 marks. You got 22 marks. It's crazy, right? No, I'm sorry to put it that way, guys, but that's how it is, right? You're up there, right? So now there's only the rest, the remaining, whatever the remaining is there for the 25. So at the end of the day, you know, and I think maybe the math is a little off, but you know, at the end of the day, you've got like 4 marks plus 6 marks is 10, right? Plus another, you know, 15 with everything else. And out of the 15, you can't get 7, but you can still get 8 out of the 15 if you just follow the other stuff. 8 and plus 10 is 18. You get 18 marks out of 25. And you haven't done the array at all. That's how my tests are going to be, guys. You're going to do it. You're going to have these pieces, these piece parts. And, you know, you'll get some, but you don't get others. But you'll be OK, right? And by the way, what about bonus marks? Do I give bonus marks? And I will, right? When you see your first one come back. If I see extra functionality that adds to it, right, that makes it better, or if I see a real efficient code, if you work hard to make it really efficient, you know, I'll give bonus marks. I'll give bonus marks, right? If it's good, if it's well presented, all that kind of stuff. If you've don't overdo it with internal comments, by the way. I don't want every single line commented. I saw some assignments from assignment number 1. I've looked through them all, by the way, and some of them are like reading a book. That's wrong, guys. Like you'll lose a mark for that, right? I'll say, my feedback back to you will be like, I don't want to read a book, right? The code should comment itself, right? Really, your variable names and your class name should make sense. It shouldn't be something when I look at them and going, what is this variable X? What does it mean, right? You know, at the same time, I don't want the variable name is going to be like my funky variable name that will impress Tom equals to. I don't want that. It's too long, right? Come on, it's got to be reasonable, right? So any questions around the structure of these things? So I know some people are still struggling with, because I'm different. I'm different than the other instructors, right? I come from somewhere else, right? I'm not from here, right? I'm from somewhere else, and I do things a little differently. It doesn't mean that I'm going to do things wrong. It's just my way, right? And you're going to get that. You're going to get a boss or an instructor that you might chime with nicely, and other people that you don't, right? We try our best. Okay, but let's talk about the structure. So I'm going to go right into Visual Studio right now. Let's follow me here on Visual Studio. I'm just going to shut this other one down I was working on this morning. And I want to go into create a new project, right? It's going to be a C# project, and it's going to be a console application that I'm going to call COMP123 lesson 5, right? So we're going to use this lesson as a bit of review, right, for what we're going to do for tomorrow. And I'm also going to use it as a way of zeroing in on that array issue, right? Okay, so I've got my program. This is my first piece to my solution here. I'm just going to create my repository on GitHub so you guys can, for those people who need to follow along. Hey, that's another thing. What about, for tomorrow's test, what about your GitHub stuff? Is it allowed? And the answer is yes, it is. So if you put code up there, your assignment number 1 and assignment number 2, if you've got code from those things, it's valid. You can use those things. All right. So I'm going to allow you to use your code, your own code examples on the net on GitHub, my GitHub, the stuff that's in my pages. You have access to everything. All right. I would ask you not to look at other people's GitHubs though. Like if you have access to your friend's GitHub account and I come around and I see that, that's bad. Please don't do that. Right. It's all about you, right? I could lock down your computers and make you do it on the computer in front of you, but I find that, you know what? It's a little bit draconian for my tastes. I don't like that kind of thing, right? So instead of doing it, making you do it on the computer in front of you, I'm going to give you the option to do it on a laptop. But again, please be careful. I will come around. Okay. So here's my repository. Again, I've just created a repository for those people who are unsure about how to use GitHub again. Just as a refresher, I created a repository. I'm pressing the plus button here. And again, this is recorded. So you can always go online and watch the recording. I've created a URI. Here it is. I'm going to copy this thing, right? And when I go into GitHub, because I've created a Git repository, I'm going to go home, changes on Visual Studio, I mean, and kind of do an initial commit. So created base project. Yeah, there we go. And then from there, I'm going to go home. I'm going to go to unsync commits, and I'm going to kind of copy in that Git piece for the repository and press and click publish. All I'm doing here is connecting you up to GitHub, right? So when you refresh, if you go to my GitHub account, you'll see what I'm seeing right now. If you go into this program.cs file, it should be the same one that I'm looking at right now. That's the whole idea. Okay. Oh, by the way, one more question. What if you're a kind of person, for whatever reason, I'm just using your case as an example, you can't figure GitHub out, and you still want to hand in your assignment number 1, right? And you're late. Hand it in, man. Right? Hand it in. Worst case, I'm going to give you part marks, even now. Right? I'm not going to stop you. And if you can't do GitHub, what's the most you can lose? 4 marks. You can't get GitHub? Zip it up and send it up on Dropbox, and I'm good to go. At least I have something. Don't leave me with nothing. If you give me nothing, I can mark nothing. Right? And if you're unsure, do both. Give me the zip file and do the GitHub. All right? Then I know. Right? Worst case, you won't lose your marks. Look, in a professional institution, there's always leeway. You can always bargain. There's always negotiation with you and your managers. All right? So think about me as a manager. All right? You got to negotiate. All right, so I've got this lesson, and if you notice the namespace, we have talked about it very briefly, and I'll tell you again in a very brief way. Namespace is like the folder. Think about it like a higher end folder. Anything inside the namespace, if I create a class in the namespace, I can access the class. So anything in the same namespace. Now my namespace is my project right now, which is COMP123 _ lesson 5. Maybe at the end of this whole thing, when we're together in this course, I'll hit what namespaces are very briefly. But it's not that important. The thing you got to worry about is your class. So here's my main class, and this is my program class that I'm running my program with. What about, here's another question. What about if you don't know how to break things up into 2 files, and if you put your class somewhere down here? Would that be acceptable? Could I run it that way? Well, the answer is yeah, it would run, right? You'd probably lose marks for structure, because I'd prefer you to create your own file for your classes, right? That would be the right thing to do. Okay, so we need to let's talk about this array thing. Let's do it here without a class first. All right, oops. Okay, I need your help because I've never done arrays before in my life, right? I don't know what arrays are. Help me out, right? Let's do a refresher, right? So I want to create a string array. The first thing I do is do what? No, before that, I want to declare, I want to do private or public, right? Can I do that here in my program? Can I declare private and public members here? Yes? Okay, so what is it, private or public?
Private.
Private. Good for you. Because remember, whenever I do something, I need to, I'm going to see if you're right, if I can do it here in my program, in my main. I want to see if you're right, guys, right? I'm doing private. You said private. All right, let's see. Can I even do an access modifier? Blah, 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 blah. Let's see if it works. Let's go to the next piece. String would be the next piece, right? Okay, I'm going to call this what? Let's make another kind of list, like car list. Right? Hold on. What do you mean? I missed some kind of array syntax. You mean like this? All right. So car lists. Okay. And then if I press semicolon, is that enough? Hold on. I got this expected. I got other kind of things. Invalid expression term private. Why? Because I'm inside this main thing, so I can't do private, right? When I'm in here, right, as an example, I can't use an access modifier whatsoever. I'm not allowed. Now, car list, the reason why it gives me this underline, why does it give me this underline? Because I haven't used it yet. That's why, right? It's very simple. All right, how can I initialize this string? Can I add members with my curly braces? I could do it that way too, right? Couldn't I? Like I could make a comma-separated list, right? A car list, and we'll say car make list, right? So instead of like, the thing, I'm going to make some comma-separated members of the car list, and let's call it like this. Can I do this? Honda, BMW, because I like BMWs. How about Mercedes? And let's talk about other ones. How about Jeep, right? That's a make, right? And how about, let me see what other kinds. Let me do one more. Give me one more. Huh? Ford, found on road dead. Okay, Ford, right? There we go. And can I do this with the comma list? Is this enough to initialize my array? Yes? Am I right? Okay. How do I, if I was going to output the values of my array, this array here that I've got, if I'm going to output this thing to the console, just as a refresher, what do? I could do a for loop, right? So what kind of for loop do I need to do? I could say something like this, right? For, and if I'm going to declare a variable, right, as an example, I'm going to declare an index. Can I make an index? Can I call it index? I could, right? Index, I'm going to start it off at 0, because remember, all arrays are 0 based, right, in C-style languages. And I want to make a condition here. This is the second piece. So index, right, is list less than what? Car make list dot length. Is that possible? Right? That basically, the length modifier, the length method, what it does is it checks for the entire length of the array. Now I have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 5 members, starting with 0, right, is what my array looks like, right? So this is my array. Okay, and now I got to do some kind of thing like index plus plus, right? I've got to have some kind of incrementer, right, in my for loop. Okay, that's pretty basic for loop. And now I want to print it out, right? So I want to go console. Can I do a dot write line, right? Console dot write line, and then I want to kind of output car make list with an index of index. Could I do that? Does that make sense? Right? So what is this doing? It's saying go into the array. The array is called, we've named the array, right? Actually, if you want to know the technical things we've done, we've created a list, a member list, and we've associated this string array as a pointer or alias to the member list that encompasses this list here, right? That's what this is, right? And now I'm calling it this friendly name car make list, and I'm using this index right here, to go through it, and I want to access. It starts off at 0, so the first one would which one would print out? Honda, right? And then it would go to BMW, Mercedes, Jeep, and Ford. That's the way it would go, right? Cool. Now we also, to see that, of course, at the bottom, we're going to do something like this, right? Because otherwise we won't see it. It'll just flash, right? So we'll do console.writeLine, press any key to exit for now, right? And some kind of message to the user telling us to exit. That's pretty important to do, right? Let's do another one. Let's do another console.writeLine, and maybe what we'll do is we'll kind of create some kind of separator, because that's the kind of guy that I am, right? With a bunch of separated little plus signs or equal signs or something funky for you. And maybe another one above that just to kind of, console.writeLine with nothing, just as an extra space, Hey, by the way, console.writelines are free. right? You can use those as many times as you want to make your output nice, right? As opposed to, it doesn't cost you anything. I'm not going to charge you 25 cents every time, right? So it's going to be okay if you use the extra ones. And of course, there's also console.read key, right? Because we need that one. If we don't use read key, then you know what's going to happen. It's going to flash, right? It's going to be gone, up and gone. Hey, how come my console.write line over here is black, but this one here is blue? How come? How come? How come? Is it going to give me an error? Right? How come? How come? Interesting, eh? Okay, let's see what happens. I'm going to run this thing now and see what I get on my console. Boom, Honda, BMW. You guys can't see it, so I'm just going to change my properties. And this is not required for you guys for an output perspective. I'm going to go to 1216, go to my colors, hit my screen color, make it white, and my screen text, I'll make it black, right? Because that's the kind of guy that I am. And you know what? I don't like my font. I think we'll use Consolas. Maybe make it 18. There we go. Boom. Okay, that's pretty good. So it's big. You guys can see that. Honda, BMW, Mercedes, Jeep, Ford. I've iterated through my through this thing. Is there another structure I could use instead of the for loop to do the same thing? Anybody? Anybody? We know any other structure to go through this for loop instead of a for loop, another structure to go through. Could we use a while loop? How would we use that? If I was going to do a while loop really quickly, right? How would I create a while loop? This is just kind of remedial, array manipulation here. All right, so I'm going to put this in stasis. That's what I like to call it, right? I'm going to put this whole thing in stasis. And the way I'm going to do that, I'm going to put like multi-line comments. Right, here we go. So now it's in stasis. Okay, it's gone. It's in deep freeze, right? I want to write another one that looks like this one, but that's different. Is there other looping structures for arrays in C#? A while. I could use a while. How does that look? So while, I can start typing, right? While what? I need some kind of Sentinel Variables, what it's called, right? On the outside to say that, you know what, it's got to start off at something. So maybe we'll set up an index, like for example here. I'll set my index, because it's a thing, as 0, right? Just like we normally did with the for loop. For my index is 0, and in here, as long as while my index is less than carMakeList.length, this is the other way to do it, right? Then do the array. And then somewhere in there, I've got to do an index plus plus, right? Right. So, we accomplish the same thing. If I just take this whole thing out, and I'm making this whole thing, I just want to show you another structure, just in case you say, Tom, there might be a better way to do this thing, right? Would this accomplish this structure here? Would this accomplish the same thing as the other one? Can you guys see all the way in the back there? Let me save this thing and run it, see what happens, right? Yeah, it does, right? So there's a couple ways you could iterate. Here my language. You can iterate through the array. I can go through the array or iterate through the array using a couple of iteration methods, a couple of looping methods. One, your for loop. That's basic structure. Another one, a while loop. How about a do while loop? Should I use that one? I don't recommend it. Not for looping through an array. Why? Because it's always got to go through at least once. What if the array is empty? And in this case, if the array was empty, the while loop would still work, and so would the for loop, because I would have no members to go through. So therefore, it would skip it. It wouldn't do anything, right? But if the array was empty and I did a do while loop, it would always do the iteration once, which give me an error, right? Potentially. You'd have to actually write more code. Okay, but I've got this array. What other things are? There's a bunch of methods, array methods we could use, right? What if I wanted to add a member to the array? I'm just going to go back. By the way, this is the while loop. I'm going to go back to the for loop right now because, that's the kind of guy that I am. I'm just going to go back to the for loop, right? And there's other ones too, by the way. I'm not going to, talk about them. But I'm going to just go back to, actually, I'll put this, just to be fair, because, I'm going to put this one in stasis too, right? I'm going to make multi-line comments. And you know what? Just to say, this is an alternate method, right? An alternate looping method. Alternate method to loop through iterate across the array, right? That's an alternate method, but I want to use this one. So I'm going to take this out of stasis. Okay, here I am. I'm out of stasis now. This one is back in action, right? I know you guys are laughing at me when I say stasis, but it's true. It's like it's in stasis. It's in cold freeze, right? And suspended animation, all right? Now the archaic command is going to come back into action. Okay, so this one here. So I'm going to use this one, but I want to use other methods. Let me just try them out. So if I was going to try some other methods of the car make list, right? And I called it car make list for a reason, by the way. If I go dot, right? And which gives me it's the dot accessor methodology, the dot notation that I'm using to go and check out other methods of my array class, which is what it is, the array object, right? There's many, many different ones here, all right? Tons and tons of different methods. Aggregate, all, any, as enumerator, average, cast, clone, concat, copy to, count, a bunch of other ones. What about if I wanted to add a new array member to the end of an array? How could I do such a thing? How would I be able to do that if I wanted to add a member to the array at the end? How do I do that? Anybody? To array? That would just cast to array, but I want to add to my array, right? And by the way, what's the difference between a count and length? That's a bunch of questions we can ask ourselves, right? So there's got to be a way for us to add stuff to the array. How about this concat method, this one? Can I use this? If I use concat, if I open up this thing, what does it say? It says concatenate the two sequences. Okay, the sequence to concatenate to the first sequence. So I've got the first sequence, which is a string, right? It's because it's a string array, right? And I got the second sequence, right, which is the second piece. So does that do it? Does that take two strings, put them together? Would that do what I want to do? I want to add a member to an array. Okay, let's say I forgot. You guys don't know how to do it. So now I'm going to search on the internet because this is the next piece that you guys do, right? I'm trying to be a student here. I don't know how to do it, right? I'm going to go to the internet. Let's go to the internet together, all right? So I'm going to go, okay, add item to end of array in C#, right? I'm going to cheat, right? How to add to the end of an array. Okay, I go through Stack Overflow and I see that there's no real checkmark method. If you don't see a checkmark, it means that's not really the answer, right? So how do I add? I can tell you in Java, it's nice and easy to add to the end of an array, right? How do you do it in C#? Is there a way? Well, there's a couple ways I could do it. I know how many members I have. So the chintzy way, if I knew how many members I had in here, I could simply just say, call it by index. So I know this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. I could do like a count, right? And then do add to a, whatever the count is plus 1. I could unassign it. But here's my question to you. Are arrays in C#, are they, question I have to ask you, are they mutable or immutable? How about that word? You guys know what that word means? Mutable or immutable? Can you modify an array when it's created? Is it possible? Can I, after the array is created, can I modify the array? Can I do something to it?
I think it's fixed.
It's immutable, right? Mutable means I can change it. Listen to my keywords here. Mutable or immutable. Mutable, I can change it. Immutable means can't change, right? If it's true, we can ask that question. So C# array mutable, right? And then it says, is it mutable? Are immutable arrays possible in .NET? Are immutable arrays possible? That's a question, right? Let's go to Stack Overflow and see what it tells us. Here's a question. It says that would be the array lists. Have you guys studied array lists? Oh, okay. And object, respectively. If you take the weak typing nature of NS mutable array in equivalent of an Objective-C class, right? So if I make a list, right, A list gives us a different format. Now, I've said array, right? I've said array, which is my folly. When I actually put this assignment 2 together, I specifically said array. For me to specifically say array, that means that you have to create multiple arrays. One for the original array, and the second one, an array that's temporary, because the arrays, can you modify arrays? Let's see. Can I add to an array? If I go like this, if I say car make list dot add, I can't do that. How about remove? I can't do that. I can't do any of those things because a car make list, an array, right, is an array immutable. That's my question to you. What does it say online? Is an array are arrays? Can I modify arrays in C#? And again, I would go back to .NET to this question and say, can I modify array in C#? Right? And again, going down to look what it says. No, try using a strongly typed list instead, because array, my friends, right? Array, the array structure, once it's defined, is not like other classes, like other languages. It's immutable. All right, so be careful. You can't do things like popping and adding and removing and stuff from an array. However, if I do a list, so here's my array. This is the array, but I could do this just like it shows here. A list. I can use the list keyword. And you guys have done list, yes? Yes or no?
No.
We leave it alone, right? We're going to cover lists. We'll cover it another time. But the difference between lists and arrays are that lists are like arrays, but you can play with them. And you can still access them the same way, but they're not immutable. They're mutable. We can play with lists, right? We can't play with arrays. Arrays are fixed, right? So this is one thing to note, why things might work. You can change, you can't add to arrays, right? But you can change an array. Like in other words, you can change a value or whatever. Like for example, if I said one of these, car make list, and if I said 0, right, car make list 0 is equal to, instead of Honda, I'm going to make a Jaguar, right? Can I do this? This is allowed. So in this case, I can change the value of an array, right? But I can't do this, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. I can't go, if I do this, right, 5, right? Can I do this? Car make list 5, Jaguar. And if I could, right, and if I ran this thing, then it would add Jaguar to the end. But look, it says an unhandled exception occurred, right, because I'm trying to go at the end beyond the scope of my array, right? I can't add Jaguar because I can't add members to the array, right? I can do this though. I can go 0. Let's see if can I change my Jaguar now? From Honda to Jaguar. Let's try this. I want to change my array. Look, does it change my array? Because it's immutable. It can't be changed. I need multiple arrays for what I've asked you to do. So going back to the assignment example, which is here, I said create an array, the string array superpowers, right? This is where it's going to accept, the string array is going to accept all the superpowers for my superhero class, right? And then, what am I doing? I'm storing for the first time. I'm initializing my array later on. That's what I've asked you to do. That we can do. An example of this would be if I haven't initialized my array, so going back to this method, all right, this main class here, if I haven't done this, right, I'm just going to take this out for a second. I'm going to copy and I'm going to kind of cut this out. If I haven't done this and I do this, is it good? Here, I've assigned it now like this. This won't run though because car make list hasn't been defined, right? I haven't defined it at all unless I do something like this. Can I use the new keyword? Right? If I go to, would it be like one of these? New string array, right? Can I do that? Is that possible? And if I say I want 10 members, right? Is that good? I haven't defined the members, right? I haven't defined them. So therefore, if I do one of these, string car make list 0, and I know the length of my array, I've got 10 members from 0 to 9, right? Just as a review. If I run it, right? Hey, where's my Jaguar? How come I can't? What's going on here? Where is it? Well, why? Because first of all, two things. I'm changing the value down here. I need to change it up here. That's the first thing, right? Before I show it, so let me check that out. There's my Jaguar. So I can actually do that, right? Let me go back. I'm going to go back to the other way I did it. So again, both ways, this way, instantiates, without saying it, implicitly instantiates a new object without using the new keyword. Okay, this is one way. This is like a list or a literal notation. Okay, you might see this called literal notation, where I use curly braces and I set up my array this way, right? Then there's constructor notation, right? If I do this and change my car make list to Jaguar, right? And I do this car make list to Jaguar instead of here after it, I do it before like this. I'm modifying an existing member, right? And I run. I can do that, right? I can modify an existing member. I can't add to the array. I can't add, method number 5. I can't do this, right? Because 5 doesn't exist in this list, right? I won't be able to do that. It'll give me an error, right? Here's my error. I can't add to it, and I can't remove it. I can't change the number of members that are in my array, but I can change the value of a member. That I can do, and that's kind of like an immutable array, right? So in order for me to do that, I could do this, like I showed you. This is one way, and the other way, actually, let's just put this in stasis here, right? Put this in stasis. And the other way to do it would be to do the other way, the other method, which is string car make lists, right, is equal to new string array, right, of a certain length. Like, for example, 10. Or in this case, 6, because you only have six members of your array for your superpowers, right? And then from there, I could do this, right? Let's see how that looks. Can I do this? Only one member of the array? Hey, what happened? Look, I got number 5 there. I'm not enumerating everything. I'm hitting number 5. It's not giving me an error, right? Oh, there it is. It's way down here, but the other ones are empty. What was that? It's not, no, it's null by default. So if I don't initialize it here, once I've done this, right, I throw a bunch of nulls into my array, right? So I can change the value of each member, each cell in the array, right? But I can't add to the number of elements, the number of cells. I can't change how big the array is. Okay? So with this structure, you don't have a lot of choices, right? I could do this. I could say each one of these, one by one, line by line. Here, let's just do this. This is the long way to do it. But you could do one of these. Here, added extra spaces for whatever reason. So here we're gonna, add. This is the long way. We're gonna put this in stasis afterwards because I like this method less than the other method. Right. So here's 5 elements, and then we'll just go back to typing it again on the BMW. Imagine if you were going to do this way. You could do this way too, right? So there's different ways to assign elements, and we're just going to say this is the other way. So if I was to do this and look through everything, and if I made everything correctly, then I got that list, right? Honda, BMW, Mercedes G4. What about if I wanted to copy an array? So this is obviously not the way I want you to do it. This is a cumbersome way, alternate method. Declare and initialize an array. Okay? That's an alternate method, but I really want you to use this method. This method speaks to me a little bit more. Right? It's fast and it's dirty, but it's good. Right? It's less lines of code, right? And less lines of code by the way, means faster, usually. Okay? So this method is the other way to do it. So look, here's a couple of alternates I've given you. You can use a for loop. You can use a while loop to iterate through the array, right? And at the end of the day, either way, and by the way, there's no Jaguar here. I just added Jaguar to make it extra. Either way, when you one way or the other, it still works. How about copying an array? Can I copy one array to another? Could I? How did I do that? Can I do, obviously I'd have to declare kind of a combination of both. Like maybe I'll do a string array again, right? So I have to make it the same type, right? And let's say I'm going to make this a temp car list, or temp make list. Okay, just to be fair, temp car make list, right? And I want to use constructor notation. Again, two different notations. This literal notation. This with a new keyword, constructor notation, right? And I go string, and I'm going to declare the array, and let's say I make it 6, right? 6. I could do this, right? So there's two different arrays here. And now I want to copy one into the other one. How do I do it? I need someone else to answer, right? Okay. Christina, tell me. How would I copy one array into another? I know she's always answering, which is good, but I want other people to answer too. Can I use concat? What does concat do? Cat's a good array is a good string function, right? It'll take two strings, put them together. But how can I copy elements of one array into another? Because this is what you're going to have to do if we can't use lists, right? Think about it. If every array has a bunch of different cells, is there a way of copying a set of cells to another set of cells? An example of this would be, I have these 6 or 5 cars, and I want to copy them into a smaller list of 3, right? Hence, here's the end list, what you're going to return, right? And here's the original list of powers, right? Or cars in this particular case. So I want to take 3 elements of here and copy it into here. How would I do so? Yes?
So in a for loop and take the first element of the first array and assign it to the first 0th location.
But I can only iterate 3 times, right? Because I have a smaller. My second array is smaller than the first one, so I couldn't do every single element. I can only loop three times, right? Any other solutions? Let's do that. Let's do your thing. I like your idea. So in other words, I could iterate through my array, right? Before I print it out, before I write line to the console, I could do another thing. I could say for, and we'll use the same thing, index, because my index, by the way, is like I or X or whatever, and it only lives and dies within this context. Is equal to 0. Index is less than. Again, we want to go temp car list this time. Dot length, right? There's only 3 elements in that list, right? And then maybe we'll do an index plus plus, right? And of course, we'll iterate through that array. Could I use the same? Could I do this? So I'm only going through 3 times, right? Okay, and now inside there, I can say, well, look, I want to take car make list. Oops. Car make list, right? Index, right? That's what I want to take that. And I want to assign the value of car make list index, which is 0, 1, 2, probably. I want to assign the value of that to my temp car list, right? Temp car list with an index, right, is equal to this. Right, so 1. This I'm not actually making the arrays equal. Or assigning the arrays one array to the other. I'm taking this element, the indexed element of this array, and assigning it to the value of the index, the other cell of the other array. Remember, array is a bunch of cells, right? So each cell is a memory location, like multiple variables, right? So if you think about it, one array might have, in this particular case, I have 5 cells, right, or 5 variables, and this one I have 3. I could have the same length if I wanted to. If it was the exact same length, let's say instead of 3 there was 5, then it would be we would copy everything to this array. Let's print both out. So here's my console.write like make list, and then my console.write line temp make list, right, with each of the indexes being printed out here. So all I'm doing is adding another console write line down here where here's a comment for you, output the value of each array, array cell. Or how about this? Better, each cell in each array, right? Because each array, it's interesting I'm using the word each, right? Over and over again. Let's see if there's another looping structure. So yeah, so we have this, and we have now I've changed this value to the same. So 5 means I have 5 members, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? From 0 to 4. This is the same thing. I have 5 cells here and 5 cells here. And all I'm doing is I'm using this for loop, assign cells from one array to another, right? That's all I'm doing. And if that's the case, when I run this thing, right, then I get everything again, right? Oh wait, hey, that's interesting. I got Honda, Honda, BMW, BMW, Mercedes, Mercedes, Jeep, Jeep, Ford, Ford. How come? I did. I printed them together because look what I'm doing. I'm printing the same thing twice. But this is good. This is telling me that this worked, right? What if I changed my number here instead of 5, right? Instead of 5, I went to 3. Would my array still work? How about this loop? Would this loop still work? Let's try it anyway. I want to try it. I want to break it. Let's break it. Oh, it crashed. Why? Because this loop here, right, has a length of 5. It's going off my car make list, which, by the way, is up here. My car make list is 5, and this list is 3, and I'm trying to go beyond the bounds of the array, so I'm going to get like this out of bound error. Tom, you're out of bounds. Come into bounds, Tom, right? And it's going to yell, right? I don't want my compiler to yell. So if I wanted to do both arrays, I would have to do 2 loops, right? 1 for 1, if I was going to go with this idea, right? And 1 for another. Here's 1 for 1. Here's 1 for another. I'll take this one out, right? So now this one only does this car length list, and the other one does temp car make list, right? And I don't have to do this one. And then, of course, I can iterate through both of them. I got two looping structures, one for this array and one for this array. And if everything goes well, and if I run it, then I should have each array printed with some extras, right? So Honda, Honda, BMW, BMW, Mercedes, Mercedes, Jeep, Jeep, Ford, Honda, BMW, Mercedes. Hey, wait a minute. What's going on? How come I'm getting everything else again, right? So again, if you notice, this temp car list, right? And I'm gonna let's separate it a little bit. I'll say it before each list gets printed. I'll do another console.write line, right? Because this is the first list, and we'll add in some separators. There we go. There's a separator for you. Let's run it again. There it is. Honda, BMW, Mercedes, Jeep, Ford, and then Honda, BMW, Mercedes, because you know what? I don't have enough room for Jeep and Ford. I only have enough room for 3. Hence, what I've asked you to do in assignment 2. Take from the first, assign to the second. Right now, I haven't done it in random order. Right? How would I do this in random order? Right? And never strike the same thing twice. Well, like we said, right? If I have this structure and I want to assign 3 random values from here, I'm going to roll a number between 1 and 6, or 0 and 5, actually, is the one I really want to roll, right? Who remembers how to do randoms? Come on. I'll say I have to kind of come up with a random, right? So I have to kind of use the keyword random, right? And maybe I'll call it, and this is my random generator, right? So let's call it just R&D, right, is equal to new random, right? So that I've populated my new random number object. This is my random number object. Here it is. Okay, and now what I want to do is I want to generate a number between 0 and 5. How do I do such a thing? I got to say, well, maybe create a new variable up here. I'm just making random variables here on the fly, right? Let's make a new variable, make it an int, and call it random car, right? It's just going to be an integer value, right? I'm not going to initialize it right now because I don't want it to be 0. That'll be bad, right? Because that means I'll always get conda at least once. And I'm going to say, well, random car is equals to random.next, right? And there's a couple of signatures here, right? One of them is a non-negative random number from 0 to whatever. Then I can give it a maximum value from 0 to whatever, which is what I want, right? So if I put a number, that number will not be included in my calculations. So I want to put in 6. This is good, right? And just to test it before we use it, we'll just do a console, right, dot write line. This is just a structure that we're using, okay? Random car. And you know what? We'll make it so that it prints out my random car is random car, right? Some string interpolation. Let's add that in there and add that in there too, right? Makes sense? So I'm just going to output my random car is. I'm using string interpolation to take the value of random car and replace this area here, and I should run it and get what? My random car is 5. Okay, let's go back again. Let's try that again. My random car is 0. That's good. Okay, so I got 0 and 5. I'm good, right? Well, hold on. Let's check. My random car is 4. All right. My random car is 2. Right. So some random numbers. Okay, good. This is good. Right. 0, a bunch. So I can generate this random car, this random number here. Here's my random car from 0 to 6, right? And I can get a number from 0 to 6. And I got to do this 3 times, right? Each of my cars is going to be randomly generated. The number that I'm going to pass, instead of doing it in a for loop to make a copy, I'm going to make the copy by doing random numbers, right? Okay. Let's check this out, right? So if my random number is this, my random car is blah, whatever, I'm going to replace, yes? Oh, sorry. Of course. Changes, added looping structure, thank you. Looping structure and array stuff. How about that? Array stuff. Okay, save and just so that you guys you're up to date with what I'm doing here. Oop. Cool. It's up on GitHub. Okay, so I got my string. I've got this, this stuff here. I've got my random number. It generates a random number between 0 and 5. And you know what? This is good, but I want to do this 3 times. I want to generate this random number 3 times. Hey, this calls for a method, right? What could I do? Well, I could refactor. I could kind of highlight this whole thing, right-click, and click refactor. This is kind of cheating, eh? And go extract method, right? And it says, what's my method going to name, right? And I'll say, oh, generate random car, right? Generate random car, right? And press OK. And then, of course, it generates my method, and it probably puts it way down here. Here's my generate random car method, right? It kind of declares a random car. It does all this for me, by the way, right? It creates this random number generator and returns random car, which is an integer, right? This is good. I want this, right? So every time I call random car, right, this is good. I'm going to generate this random number. Okay, good. Everything's great. Well, I want to do this. I want to do this 3 times, right? I could loop it 3 times. I could. But it doesn't make any sense because the numbers are going to be different, right? Let's do it 1 at a time for now without a loop, right? And I want to assign, actually, if I looped it, it'd be easier, right? Because I want to go to the temp car list length. This loop here is fine. I could use this loop, right? And I could say something like this. Let's do it the wrong way first. So I take this thing off. I don't need this piece, right? I do need this part, right? This is going to be my index, right? Even though I'm looping through, right? My new index for car make list is going to be here, this thing here, right? So I'm going to take this value here. Here's the tricky part that people get lost, right? Watch. And put it in here, right? Right? I could do that. Oh. Why? Because I'm doing a method call inside of this value here. Now, if this is confusing to you, is this confusing to you what I've just done? If this is confusing to you, let's do this. I'll take my random car, right, which I already defined. I'll assign it this value first, but I'll assign it down here. So I'll say random car is equal to this. Bear with me while I finish it off. Right? And put random car in here. Right? In other words, what does random car give me? A number between 0 and 3. So I'm going to take that number and use that number to get to copy from the car make list, which is a random number from 0, right, to 6, or 0 to 5, because it's a 0-based array. Right? So that's what this random car number is. It's going to take the value that I get from my method, right, assign it to random car, and then I'm going to take the value of random car and use that as an index. Now I can only go from 0 to 5 anyway, because that's how I've made the array. And there's, by the way, there's way better ways to do this. This is the chintziest, easiest, stupidest way to do it. Okay? Let's see what happens. I'm going to take a random car. And by the way, this is the wrong way. This is the way that I'm going to get duplicates. Okay, if you did this, you get part marks. Let's try this out. My random car is 1. My random car is 2. My random car is 0. So this is all different. And here's my result, right? My BMW, Mercedes, Honda. Here's my original list, Honda, BMW, Mercedes, Jeep, Ford. And I'm getting BMW first, which is 1, right? Mercedes next, which is 2, right? And Honda next, which is 0, right? So there it is. Honda, BMW, Mercedes, Jeep, Ford. This is the original list. And this is my result. Yeah? Let's do this again. I'll make it even nicer for you guys. Since you guys are so nice to me, I'll make it nice for you, right? So, you know what? Let's add a couple of other little divisions here, because you know what? Console commands, console write lines, they're free, right? Let's do that again. And inside here, I'm going to put another little console command that says, hey, look at this. Look at this sexy stuff I'm doing here. Come on, right? You could do this too. New car list, right? Here's my new car list, guys. Huh? Let's just make it so that it's even centered if I want to do something crazy. Who would have thought? There we go. New car list, right? Car list. Hey, come on. Don't get down on me here, all right? And then, hold on. I'm going to copy this, right? And this is the original one up here, right? So let's just add some separators over here. Wait a minute. Wait for it, all right? Because this is like super duper. This is crazy, right? Original, right? And let's just kill some of these extra spaces because, you know, I can't do with all these extra spaces. So add one there, you know, do a little bit of shuffling. I'm playing right now, all right? This is what I'm doing. I'm playing with you guys. Oh. So you guys can see what I'm talking about and some nice clarity. Original car list. This is my new car list. I've got my original that's gonna print out. Then there's gonna be some other spaces. And you know what? Finally, I'm gonna get this other space down here, which is press any key to exit. And you know what's going to happen? This is going to generate my random numbers. By the way, this random number thing, which is happening down here, my random car is thing. I can turn this off. This is some, you know, debugging, you know, that I've put in here, right? Debugging kind of statement that I'm going to turn off. I'm going to turn this off. Debugging line, right? So all I'm doing is just printing stuff out to see what my result is, to check. I want to check to see that I don't get duplicates. I want to see what's happening here. All right, let's check it out. Run. Okay, 1, 4, and 2. They're all different. And hold on a second. Here's my original car list, Honda, BMW, Mercedes, Jeep, Ford. And then I get BMW, which is 1, so 0, 1. I get Ford, which is 4, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's good, right? And you know what? Mercedes, which is a 2. A 2. 0, 1, 2. So this is all good, right? Okay, let's run it a couple more times because we haven't finished our output yet, right? Here's the second one. Uh-oh. Now I got a duplicate. What do I do? How do I fix that? I got 2, 0, 2. Mercedes, Honda, Mercedes. That means you get part marks, right? You lost a couple marks there because you didn't make it unique, right? Because unique is going to give you like 2 marks just to make it unique. So let's say you can't make it unique. It's okay. You lost 2 marks. Now you get 23 instead of 25, all right? That's all I'm saying. Worst case scenario, guys. We have to talk about this because, you know what? People brought it to my attention. They're like, hey, I don't know how to do arrays. I haven't done arrays before. I laugh at that, right? Because we need to do arrays. Guys, you're programmers. You need to figure this out. Your brain has to be able to figure this problem out, right? Okay, how do we fix this? So we know we can fix it in here, right? Because this is where we're generating the random number, right? We could do that here. We could. Or if I know that the same number is hit twice, right? I could pull the number out. I could pull this value out instead of pulling it out where I do up here, right? So right now I assign it here in this little loop, right? I could say, well, you know what? Once I pull it out inside the same loop, I can assign this the thing to null, right? Just like our friend says here, right? So we could do something like this. Car make list, right? The original car make list. I'm going back to my original car make list of whatever the random number is that I generated, right? I could make that into null, right? Which is nothing, right? Or I could say some value, like I want that already chosen, right? Like I could put that in there, like some kind of value that I want, like chosen, right? Like that, you know, just almost like a flag that tells me that it's been done. Now if I run, oh man, what happened? How come it didn't work? What's going on, right? What did I do? I got a random car. This is where it happened here. I go through this. I assign it, and then I'm trying to make this assign. What's the error that I get? Let's run that again. I don't understand. It says an unhandled exception of type system index out range exception occurred in this. Well, why did this happen? This shouldn't happen, right? Because what I'm going to is from the random car. My random car goes from 0 to 5, right? That's what happens. 0 to 5, right? And then that's okay. 0 to 5, right? Is it 0 to 5 or 0 to 4 that I should go to? So maybe this number is wrong, right? I just didn't iterate enough. I didn't test enough times. Do I have 5 members? I do, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So from 0 to 4. But that's not what I've done here, guys. I've asked it to go from 0 to 5. So this be wrong, right? Because it should never go to 6. Or it should never go to 5. It should go to 4, right? Let's try that again. Okay, cool. 1, 1, 4, 4, 1, 1. Oh, look, it's replacing these things by chosen. I got one chosen already, which means this is the original array. I modified my original list, and I changed my array so it says chosen, right? It says chosen, right? Let's try that again. 044. Oh, chosen, right? I modified it. And look, I'm getting a chosen again because I got the 0. The first one, the 0 is a Honda. Then I got a 4, right? I got a 4, which should be, hold on. It's Ford, right? That was the original one. I'm showing you a way to do it, right? Honda's the first one. Ford's the second one. And then I go back to the third one, it says chosen. But how come both of my original ones now say chosen? My first one and my second one, because that's what I've told it to do. So you can't go back there. You can't choose Honda because it's already been chosen. And you can't choose Ford. And you know what? Guess what? This one comes up because I've chosen it again. Okay, that's good. It's telling me that I've chosen again. And now what I can do is I can test for it. So I can say, this is cool. And I'll say this. Before I assign it, I can say, if, here's my if, car make list, right, is not equal to chosen, because I can do that because I made a chosen member, right? Can I equate strings this way? Then I'll take this stuff here and put it in there, right? And voila, if it allows me to do such a thing. Car make list, random car. right? If car make list random car is not equal to chosen, then assign it and make it equal to chosen. Because in other words, I'm choosing it. I'm just making chosen. I chose chosen as a thing. You can make it void. You can say it's unavailable or whatever. Let's do that. So I can say if it's unavailable, if it's not equal to unavailable, here, just to make it so that you guys are not crazy, right? Because you're going to look at it, I'm losing some of you. I can see you glazing already, right? How's that? Same, right? Unavailable. Can I spell? How about that? How about them apples? All right, hold on a second. Hold on. Oh. Okay, this is good. Unavailable, unavailable. But this is good. This is the original list. I'm writing over my original list, and I've got original members here, right? And now I'm going to run it again. Let's see if I can get these things going on. Oh, look. I've got a couple of things here. I got a couple of things here that are empty. Why? Because I've chosen three times. So I've hit it once, a perfect example. I've chosen 0, 1, 2, 3 once, twice, 3 times. The first time I chose it, the second 2 times, I said don't do anything because it's unavailable. So this is good. This is half the answer. But this isn't the full answer. What can I do? Right? If it's unavailable, roll this again, baby, and do it again. Right? Now we get into some problems. Right? Now we get into some problems. So I've generated it once. I go through here. If it's unavailable, if it's not unavailable, then do it. If it is unavailable, then you know what? Generate it again. Right? Generate that car. Do this whole thing again. Which means I need to call a method, and I need to make another custom method, right? To fix my problem. Sure, speak. Tell me.
We can write that index plus plus inside the if statement, so it will iterate 3 times.
This
Rather than writing that index plus plus in the for loop, we can write it inside the if statement.
that's dangerous. That's dangerous. Then if I change my index, this is bad. This is bad coding. If I change my index while I'm inside my loop, unless it's a while loop, I'm in trouble, right? I'm in trouble because I could loop forever if I'm not careful, right? So I could make it loop again, right, and generate this whole thing again. I could, but that means I need a different looping structure. I probably need a looping structure like the while loop, right? Because the while loop down here, this is the alternate looping structure, makes more sense. Because then I have a control of my indexed statement down here, right? Makes sense? Because then I could say, well, if it's true, increase the index. If it's not, don't, and run it again and again and again until my index goes up, right? So this isn't a bad looping structure. Let's pause the movie here for effect, right? And we'll come back.